they are meant to be 5K creators.
From your perspective, what's a great creator?
I got €4 in my bank account. Everyone has a team. You cannot do it by yourself.
What's the long-term vision for Wunder?
Interesting.
Hi everybody. Today I'm going to interview Lauris, the co-founder of Wunder Management and also a content creator of 10 years. So welcome.
Nice to see you here.
Nice to see you.
Let's dig into me.
So let's start from the beginning. The origin story of Lauris. Before Wunder, before OnlyFans creator, what were you doing?
Okay, so let me try to recap the short version. But inherently, I was born here in Riga. I lived most of my life until the age of 18 in Riga, just as everyone in my family had lived in Latvia, so none of us had really gone abroad. And I was a pretty awkward kid. I played with cardboard boxes and I read books most of the time. I didn't really make a lot of friends necessarily. I was very much introverted. I still am to some extent, but I know how to improvise by now. And until roughly 16 or so, funnily enough, I was walking down the street one day and was listening to a Kanye West song, and he was so confident in the song. I was having a bad day, and then for some reason I just went like, I like that, I'll be confident too. And then literally like that day, it's like a light bulb went off and something switched, and I started just going to any like business competition you could go to, things like that. So I even got I was the youngest person that internshiped in one specific bank. I got into a lot of things, and I kind of felt like I had reached the limit of what I can do in Latvia. Now looking back at it, that's such a funny thing because I hadn't done anything, but you know how you feel like at that age. And from there, I wanted to get into good business school, got into one of the best ones in Europe, ESCP Europe, and studied abroad. The studies themselves weren't necessarily interesting, but I have found later that many of the things that I found boring were actually very important, and then now I know how to do them when most other people don't, which is a very useful skill.
That's good, yeah.
And then studied abroad in France, in Italy, in Germany, because we moved around each year. That's how our school was. And from there, I met a lot of the main thing was the people that I met in my class, because we had some crazy people around us, like the kids of billionaires studied with us and things like that, right? So it was a very interesting group to study with, and it kind of just very much again changed my perspective of what's possible, what can I do. And I thought I was going to go into the correct career path after business school, which is banking or accounting, things like that. And I was set for that because I took a loan, I needed to pay it back. I knew that's just what I have to do. But one day I went into a sort of boot camp, like alumni who finished the school came, and they were talking about their jobs in the bank, and she says, I walked out, and from that day I said, I like photography, I'm just gonna make this work. I don't know yet how, but I'm just gonna do this. There's no option back. And since then, that day was, who knows now, 6-7 years ago, just never looked back. 6-7. That was accidental, I must admit.
Right.
We did make videos about that a few days ago, but this one was accidental. And so just never looked back, and for a long time worked in Berlin as a photographer. And admittedly, that was never the most commercially successful thing, because I did my thing how I wanted it to do, and I didn't really look at the other commercial side options. I knew my direction, which wasn't easy. There were very tough moments when you do the thing you believe in. At times it gets really tough, like not really under a bridge tough, but like moments when you're like, okay, I got €4 in my bank account. And I got to meet my partner Manuel, who had been building businesses for quite a few years. Met in the summer one day, partied all summer, and then one day I was going to Backstreet Boys concert. He said, hey, meet me before that, I have an idea. We met up in East Side Mall in Berlin. He said, let's do a business. I said, I have to think about this. He said, you got 2 days to think. I was like, okay. He's not one to waste time. And so that's the short version of how I got to where I am today.
Perfect.
Running this business.
All right. So let's start from the beginning. How did you even start the photography? How did you even know that being a content creator is your thing?
Gotcha.
Where did all of that start?
Around 2014 or something like that, Instagram was coming up, and specifically one creator, Jay Alvarez, was someone who I was following at the time, who was a big travel influencer and still is, and he was creating content, and I thought, you can live like this. Like you can literally just do that. And that blew my mind. Like you could just do photography. And I realized that back then social media was early. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do this. Now, I can't say all of my first social media work was successful, but that's overnight success. You put in like 7 years until something actually happens, right? Yeah. And in the beginning, I just like my dad likes to do photography also, and just for fun, basically when you know we're traveling, things like that. And I started like taking the camera from him, so I'm like, I want to take some pictures. And if you scroll down all the way down to my first Instagram pictures, they're just like nice landscape shots. There's still this one shot of like this old colorful oil barrel in some old factory, and it's still one of my favorite shots of all time. You know? Nice. So like just nice aesthetic things. And from there, I think what got me into shooting more women, models and influencers wasn't necessarily a decision I had. Rather, a friend of mine literally said like, hey, I got some nice new stuff, like take some pictures of me. And I went like, I guess. Sure. And then I was like, okay, this is a thing, you can do that. And then more and more I asked friends, they were like, yeah, of course I want pictures. And I was like, okay, cool. Right. And so obviously over time, like in the beginning you shoot a lot of stuff. I did some like landscape stuff, and then I did like, for example, portraits of men, which I'm still really good at. I just like I chose my niche. There are other things I'm good at, but I know like this is just I have to focus somewhere. And then this is what I focus on: creators, influencers, women specifically. And I like to think I've gotten decent at it. Not too bad. Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, exactly. Because my next question was, did you ever imagine you'd be running an agency, scaling creators instead of just doing photo shoots?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So for me, I've ever since I was a kid, when we lived in our old apartment in this, like, you know, these Soviet buildings that we have in Latvia, right? We had one of these like standard apartments, and there essentially our parents had a room, my brother, and then we did. And I was the only one who had a desk big enough to have a computer. So the computer of our house was in my room. And I still remember as a kid, I was sitting there and thinking, there's some guy, Bill Gates, out there somewhere who somehow got a computer into my room, and now I use it. And it just blew my mind. I was like, that's business. Like somehow this stuff is here. And from I don't know what age I was, 5 or whatever, but like then I thought, like I never had the thought I'm gonna be a policeman or astronaut or whatever. I was like, I'm gonna be a businessman someday. Now it took a lot of time, like more than 20 years to actually like start doing that properly, but I kind of knew that. So I have 3 things that describe me, which explains my whole life, which is business, Latvia, and photography. If you think about what I do, it's just these are the things that I do, and basically nothing else. Yeah,
perfect. Sounds wonderful. Talking about wonderful, so the next question is, how did Wunder actually start?
So the meeting that we had with Manuel was essentially the kickoff. And in the beginning, I think the interesting part is also once you start a business, you have the big picture, but there's a lot of details to be figured out. Of course. So literally the first thought was, for example, Manuel's thought was, let's open up an office in Georgia because Eastern Europe has like cheaper people. And I was like, yeah, how about Latvia? Right? So there's a lot of obvious things that need to be figured out in the beginning, which looking back is like, why Georgia? And in the beginning, what we were, so to say, lucky in a way is Manuel's experience of having built things before is we tested a lot. So also like I knew that Instagram is going to be our core, but we also took essentially just we paid other people to teach us like the industry specifics, because while I know social media and Manuel knows business, it's still industry specific, so you need to put in. So we invested a lot in the beginning just to literally do what other people were doing and like learn from that. So we also in the beginning we ran a bunch of different marketing techniques, like black hat marketing. We had phones for dating apps, and then we had Reddit and blah blah blah. Like we tested everything, because in the beginning you don't know what works, but over time we realized more and more that like, yes, okay, this is our strong suit, these other things also kind of work, but we have to just pick and choose what we're actually going to do. So over time, I think that's an ongoing process of figuring out even better and better and better what you're doing. But in short, through this testing process, we came to the conclusion that our goal is to create the best content for Instagram. Like that describes our business. But it's not a straight line. In the meantime, we ran like I still have like a bunch of old iPhones that we were using to make a bajillion accounts and whatever, because like that was the thing people were doing, and we had to test it to see if it works, right?
Yeah,
so,
I just wanted to ask, what was the first version of the agency? But I guess this explains
kind
it.
of that, yeah. The first version was a big mess of everything.
Of everything, yeah, just learning.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Oh, what were the hardest lessons you had to learn while making an agency like this? It's a good question.
I think the biggest one for me, and what held us back for a while, is also the reason why you see my face everywhere all the time in ads, and I talk about this a lot and do everything. The biggest lesson was sales, funnily enough, because if I categorize myself, I'm kind of a marketing person, right? And I know how to make good content, get attention, but essentially then choosing who to work with. So in the beginning, we had a few creators that we stuck to for a long time, because I thought we need to really specialize just on a couple of creators. And Manuel kept telling me like, no, we need to find more people to work with. And it was honestly like the first year, that was like a big back and forth that we had, right? Many times. And in the end, his opinion won out, just because I realized after a while, it took me a while to realize that he's right. Because sometimes I was trying to help people who didn't want to be helped.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a limit of, for example, some creators will just like, they are meant to be 5K creators because they just do not have the will, the skill, the capacity
The
to do
it
more.
factor.
Yeah. Right. You just need to have it, and not everyone has it. So that was my biggest learning, is kind of not try to run my head into a wall and think I can help everyone, but actually find the right people to work with and help each other.
Yes,
basically.
that's really important. Okay.
I think by far that's the biggest. Many other along the way, but that changed how I look at, I think, anything I do. Just business, hiring, relationships, friends, anything.
Right. Yeah. People see me and other creators growing, but what's the part of work you actually love doing?
I think inherently I'm a content and marketing person, so in a way what I probably do best is I lead by example, which is I make content, right? So I show what we do, because in many cases agencies are just faceless people somewhere behind, where they say do this about social media. Like, but where's your social media?
Yeah.
Right. So I think one of the strongest suits is that I show what we do, and it works, and show it through my own content. And I'm also I approach it. I'm honestly not at least in our agency, I have touch points with creators, but not necessarily a crazy amount, because I'm also not the kind of poke people all the time. Like when I'm somewhere, I like to be with the person, right? I'm not doing anything else right now. I'm focusing on you. And so that means most of the time spending time with the team, and I like to go in depth. So for example, what I do a lot is I just have one-on-ones with my team members and really just help them restructure things, do things better, think about things, like coach my team, so that they can actually be very capable people and then run their positions, their departments, and get more people in. So I'm very upfront, and I'm very behind the scenes, and I'm actually not so heavy in the middle myself. That's where the team thrives much more.
Yeah, perfect. Well, talking about system and structure, you're quite big on that. So why is it important? Why do you think it's important?
Because you can't build a business without it. Inherently, there's a good business is something that a piece of bread could run, or a sandwich. like you need to. Inherently, there's two opposites. You're looking for great people, but you also want to build great systems. So inherently, find the best people you can to work with, right? What I also just talked about. But you also need to make sure that those people don't go off in every single direction, and that things are consistent. Because just like in anything, it's about making choices. And so at some point, you figure something out and you stick to it. Now, I'm really good at that, but you'll also find me sometimes. I have essentially two sides. I have like the mechanic and the star to me on the opposite end. So if I am talking here right now on camera, I'm just really not thinking about systems. I can't. Like, it will take me a few days to like switch over to that.
Yeah.
And same thing here. I could just disappear for 2 weeks. It means I'm building something very actively, and then you won't see me anywhere. Now, there might be still going posts out because everything's scheduled the front, things like that, but like, I'll just be somewhere sitting in a cafe by myself and just writing and building. And so you kind of need a bit of both. Bit of people, bit of systems. Bit of people, bit of systems. Bit of people,
right.
bit of systems.
Makes sense. That's why you're so good at it.
Thanks.
Okay. What do you think is the biggest misconception creators have when joining your team? Or not even joining, just talking to you?
I can literally take this from the people that apply, because we have about an average of 10 applicants every single day. And again, to most of them, we will not reach out. We only reach out to very specific people. And I think the biggest misconception is that you need to do everything. What does that mean? Is basically when we talk to people, it was funny, when we onboarded people, oftentimes in the beginning, we started having like these random things that came up later, where they're like, oh, by the way, also there's some posting happening somewhere here on this Reddit account. And also, oh yeah, I forgot to have this Twitter. And then something else happens here. And what we realized is like, okay, people just want to do everything, right? So in our case, and it's funny, I make it so explicit all the time as much as I can, but still people oftentimes don't get it. It's like, we just focus on Instagram.
Yeah.
One account and good content. That's it. That's all we do. Like, that's the point. And it's funny, people still come and they're like, I have this thing, and I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
talking about structure and system.
Something else. Like, yeah. And so again, if that thing works, then why are you talking to me? It's probably not working. So there's like, let's focus on something. So as much as I try to make it obvious, I think I still need to make it more obvious.
Yeah, clearly. Now you have made it obvious.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Since we're talking about creators, what's one thing you wish creators understood about working with the team? I think you just low-key said.
Kinda. In a way, it's just the principle of having a team. That's I think most people don't realize it. Look, a creator is the star. You're the star of the show, much more than I am star of the show, right? I have a different show, so to say. But if you look at, and I like to, people like to think that their situation is unique. We generally always think like we're special snowflakes in something like this, what I'm doing. But we're not. Even if you look at the industry we're in, essentially it's talent management, right? And talent management is the same across all disciplines. Now we're talking OF creators, but that could be influencers. Without OF, that could be painters, book writers, musicians, actors, whatever, any kind of talent. It's all the same. You will very, very rarely find anyone that works without a team. For example, all of Hollywood is signed to CAA, Creative Artist Agency, and they all have massive teams. So it's not like that one actor just kind of shows up somewhere and something happens. No, it's just a massive amount of people making
nobody
sure
talks about
that
this.
can actually happen, right? And same thing with creators. If you look at, we love to follow, the creators from the UK, LA, and things like that. Everyone has a team.
That's true.
Everyone has a team. You cannot do it by yourself. And so there are exceptions. Like my favorite exception in music is Macklemore. He's a guy who did it without the label and did it himself. But we love to idolize the exceptions. In reality, there's a reason they're exceptions, and there's a reason most people do it like this. Is you can't build a business on exceptions, right? So that's just statistically not likely to work out.
Yeah.
So as obvious as it sounds, just having a team and not trying to do everything yourself.
Yeah. Okay. And from your perspective, what's a great creator?
Interesting. I would say someone who's surprisingly disciplined. That's a great creator. Which sounds like the opposite of what you should say, because it's supposed to be creative, but inherently, even in the arts, anything creative, it's just about repetition. So even the world's best, most prolific writers, actors, everything, it's just about repetition. Even me as a creator, I always say I'm not really a creative person. I just did it so many times. I found some examples. I went, okay, I'll make something like this and see what comes out of it. And then I went, okay, cool, let me try some more examples, something like this. So creativity is in a way overrated, discipline is underrated. Reality, the people who succeed as artists most of the time, again, there are exceptions and we love the exceptions are fun, but in reality it's just people putting in an ungodly amount of hours to make sure it happens. Like all the 100K creators, they do a lot of work, like a crazy amount of work.
I think discipline is really important. When you look at creators' content, what do you see that they probably don't?
Average watch time. if we're talking about videos specifically, I'll focus on that since reels are generally our strongest suit. Is in the end when you're working with on a platform as we are, we're working for Instagram, so we're working on Meta's platform. Again, you always want to look at the kind of first principles, step back, and first of all think like, okay, if I want to succeed, I'm working on their platform, so it means I have to make them succeed. And so what does that mean? How does Meta make money? They make money with ads. And how Meta can make better ads, if you spend more seconds watching something, they'll figure out, okay, you're watching videos about this, so in your case maybe they'll say, okay, maybe they like cakes, for example, right, this person. So then they know I need to target ads about cakes, and the more they watch, the more Meta can target you what it is. And it sounds so simple, but understanding the business case behind Meta explains that there's nothing more important in content than keeping people's eyes glued to the screen. That's how Meta makes money. The longer someone looks at a screen, the more money Meta makes, the more money you make, basically, right? And that's not how most people think. They think about emotions, they think about this or that, which is important, that's why it's fun. But in reality, I'll oftentimes literally just go like, cool, how many seconds did people actually watch that? Is it 4 seconds? Don't care. Right? Like it's cool, but people didn't care. When we got 12 seconds on some reel, I'm like, okay, let's make more of this. People actually like this, which means Meta makes money, which means Meta lets you make money. That's the super kind of technical explanation, but it's the obvious thing that most people don't think about.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you talk a lot about that, with me at least. Talking about me, what do you think are my strengths as a creator?
I think that you say yes to pretty much anything. Which is great. Right? And so I think that comes with just a lot of trust and liking each other as a person. But the hardest part is trying to help someone succeed when all you hear is no's. And sometimes it happens when someone comes on and then we're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and they go like, yes, and then you start doing it and they're like, I don't want to do that part and that part and that part and that part and that part, and then I'm like, okay, so you don't want to do the whole thing, basically, right? So you want to do something else, doesn't fit. So instead, like, we've thought through it, we've done it so many times, so that's why we give, like, the ideas that we give are well thought through, essentially. And so if someone says yes and just tests it out rapidly, that's the biggest thing of winning. The reason why we managed to build a business is because we tested a million things up front quickly to see if it works, and we just drop the ideas that don't, and we say more yes to the ones that you do. And I feel like that's you. That's how actually, you also operate. Yeah,
which actually is a lot of trust, because I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be doing like Omegle. That's crazy for me to do.
Or squishing many cakes together and whatever.
No, that's like light. That's fine. Light work. That's fine. Yeah, I like to do that. That's really nice. Thank you. I think you're gonna like this question. What's the long-term vision for Wunder?
Okay, so for us, inherently in the big picture, we have it named that we want to be Europe's most influential influencer agency. Now we might have to rework the influential influencer, but that's the idea. So generally to generate the most amount of views possible for Instagram and OnlyFans creators. And in our case, we also approach it very specifically. We have some things set out, like we know the roadmap of roughly how many people we want to have, where we want them to have, where's the office, things like that. You need to kind of set out the vision a little bit, right? We also approach planning very concretely. So the easiest thing to do is to plan out a million things and then do none of them. So rather we set like quarterly plans, yearly plans, and then 3-year plans and further. But I don't plan beyond the things we do right now. Now at the end of each year, we might revisit that and write in new things because we learned, but inherently I kind of take the Steve Jobs approach of like, I'm just doing one thing right now, and I'm going to be the best at the world at it, and I'm going to crush it. And then once I crush it, like really, then I can think about other things.
Okay.
But over time, obviously, what we build with our creators and this collaboration are very large profiles, right? And a lot of views, a lot of followers. That's very interesting to brands over time. Content trips. I love doing productions. Like we're doing some productions. That's a big part of what I want to do. It's just, first of all, I think it's a lot more fun, and you can do a lot in the same moment, because I always think about in iteration cycles. So if you, let's say we call once a week, just like that's it. We just have one touch point a week. We can improve once a week. But for example, if we do a shoot, we might shoot, let's say 600 content pieces. Then we just improved 600 times in the span of a few hours.
Yeah.
Right. And so the more I can help improve quicker, the more I like that, which is why I like productions also.
Okay.
And I get to make funny videos. So.
All right. Yeah, that's true. Now, question about you. What's one thing that's fun about you that people don't know?
Fun.
Have to think about that one.
Have to think about it. I like to read books, but I think that's obvious. I post about that a lot.
I don't know what's fun about that.
Oh, that's great fun. I like it.
All right.
But I like to drive out into nature. I'm not really a clubbing person and things like that too much. Like, sure, sometimes a good party, why not?
That one summer, yeah.
Yeah, yes, that summer was a good party. But I like to spend a lot of time out in nature. So what I've been doing more and more is on the weekends, I might gather a few friends, especially I like it even more if it's people who don't know each other. So just people who are in my friends group, like I don't know, person A and person B, and then just put together and then we go out on a road trip. And there's nothing more greater to me in life than driving out to some small town, going to the local like inn tavern that they have there, where like the local grandma runs it and then makes food, and she's like happy you're there because it's not like they get a bajillion customers.
Yeah, that's so true.
And then you just sit over with a bunch of cool people over some really tasting food in like a unique place outside of your like the day-to-day rush.
Yeah,
that's my favorite. It's such a, I like the simple pleasures in life. Inherently, I'm a very simple man.
Yeah, right. That's really nice.
So nature trips probably gives me more satisfaction than anything else in the world.
Okay. And what's one thing people would be surprised to know about you? Them glasses are fake, huh?
No. Okay, speaking about glasses, when I was a kid, my glasses were like this thick because I was
Harry Potter.
Even more than that, because now like everyone I'm going in minus, I think, right? But when I was a kid, I was in plus, and I was like +7. I was like basically blind.
Yeah. I don't know what that means. That means you can't see far, or you?
I don't
okay,
know.
now
I never know, but I just couldn't see.
Okay, and now
like that. Now it's the opposite. So funnily enough, by playing a lot of computer games and reading around a lot of books, I fixed my vision because then it goes into minus. Now I am going into minus.
Yeah,
so, like,
and that means you can't see far or close.
Far,
close.
I guess. I think.
Yeah. You think?
It's not that bad where I noticed it too much yet.
Oh,
right?
okay.
At this
good.
point, but yeah, I fixed my vision by playing computer games. Let's say that's a random fact.
Yeah, that's surprising to be honest. Good to know. I wanted to ask a question. You said you traveled a lot, right? Like Italy, Germany. Do you speak any of those languages? Do you know any?
Io posso parlare italiano. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. French? Hell no. No. French.
That's not your thing.
French people did not want to speak English to me at all, and I could not speak French to them.
Okay.
Italian a bit. I don't speak it as well as I used to. But when you live in Torino, which was... it's close to Milan. It's not the biggest city. It's not the most international city, and so a lot of people really just don't speak English, which is wild to us, our generation here. Like all of us young kids do. Yeah. In Italy, still a lot of people don't.
Yeah, a lot of people. Like in general in Europe, nobody cares to speak English.
And so I was living in a essentially like a flat share with this like kind of mom and her daughter, and then I was just in the third room, and they didn't speak English either. So I just literally had to learn to speak Italian, which I could do at a certain point pretty well. It's just now it's gone a bit rusty. And some German. I had a very large Duolingo streak of like 150 days or something.
You
more, I
lost
think.
it.
I think even more. Yeah, at some point. I think it was in that summer partying time when I lost it.
Okay.
But that led to business, so it worked out.
Yeah. And are you willing to learn more languages, or that's just not your thing? Maybe you don't have time.
Probably not right now. everything's in English. I operate everything in English. I just
Yeah.
love reading. So I enjoy reading so much. I want to read a lot, but then I could read another language, but that would slow me down. So I just don't feel like it. Maybe at some point, probably Chinese at some point. Gotta learn that.
Oh, yeah, I think Chinese would suit you. Good luck, though.
Yeah, that will take a while.
Okay, well then, final questions, I guess.
Yes, okay.
If a creator is watching
Mm-hmm.
and they're stuck, what's one thing or a couple things that you would recommend for them?
Awesome. So, first of all, I'm gonna speak only to the creators in like a specific range. This isn't necessarily advice for beginners or even necessarily advice for the superstars already. Kind of the creators in the middle. And I like to look at right now. I'm looking at kind of creators between 1 to 5 million views per month on Instagram. It's probably that the biggest advice and what we do inherently for creators is if you got there, there's probably something that works. You kind of already figured out the good thing. You probably already spent quite a few years to get here. In short, do more of what works. Stop running side quests. Stop looking in every direction. Stop cranking more accounts. Just you've already found whatever that diamond is in there, very likely. You just might not have noticed or even known what to do with it. Make more of what works inherently is the simplest advice what I would give.
Nice. That's a good advice. Okay. What's one thing you wish somebody told you before being a creator?
When I started.
Advice. Yeah.
I was reflecting on that recently, actually. This one's kind of... It's a couple of themes I'll go back on, but one of them is sales. Over time, I learned how to do sales. Sales is a crucial skill. What sales means is inherently talking to another person to understand them and seeing if you're a fit, actually. That is inherently good sales, right? And also, it is a law of repetition, like just reaching out to people because people are busy all the time. And what I realized is when I was just a creator myself, trying to figure stuff out, I was really bad at that. I thought I was getting somewhere, but my sales was like, I'll go talk to someone. It's like, no, this is much more targeted. So a reflection is, at that point, I thought I had some business skills. I did not.
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah.
As most creatives, I overestimated my skill set sometimes. And the other one is, I just wish I had the team sooner. Because I was, up until the day when with Manuel we started this, I remember I even told him I was still living in Berlin and I was walking one day and I think I sent him voice messages of telling him, okay, I'm in, but also bear with me for like a few months. It's probably going to be really hard to work with me because I've worked by myself always, kind of that's what I've done. And working with someone is going to be really weird for a while. I'm going to have to adjust to that, which was the case. It literally, after a few months, I felt like, okay, I can work with you as a partner, just mentally for myself. I accept that I am not alone, that I am with people, that I'm connected with other people. And I think just doing that sooner, because you can do a bunch by yourself, but there's just a limit to how many hours you have, to what skills you have. So just working with other people you like, also just makes life more fun.
Yeah.
And usually it's more effective, basically. I think those are the two big takeaways, that I didn't have any business skills and that I should have gone a team sooner so I could develop that and find people with complementary skills.
Okay, perfect. Good answer.
Thanks.
Well, final question, but I don't know, maybe you answered it right now, but I had a question. Do you have, if you could give advice to your younger self, not just career-wise, just as a person, is there any advice you would give?
Yes, maybe two things. Don't do what you like, and it's gonna take way longer than you think.
Right.
So break it down quick. So don't do what you like. Again, goes back to for the longest time, I was doing what I liked in exactly the way I wanted it to. And I didn't do any of the parts that I didn't wanna do, which were the critical parts to actually move forward, right? So life is mostly doing a bunch of stuff that's necessary so you can really enjoy the stuff that's good. If you only do the stuff that's good, it usually doesn't work out because you need to build a base of stuff.
Yeah.
And it takes longer than you think. Inherently, there's never the final. You know, you always want to keep going. It's never good enough anyway, right?
Yeah.
And as someone who builds, the journey is in the building, and it's also whatever you think you're gonna do is you can get there. Just expect if you think it takes 1 year, it takes 3 years. That's the reality.
Yeah,
Most
for
people
sure.
who ever succeeded took way longer than you think. Overnight successes come after 7 years of hard work,
Yeah.
basically. And I think the more people realize that, the more it's everything you do just becomes okay. Things aren't like we want to assign things to life where it's like, this is good, this is bad, this is great, this is boring. It's like, no, it just is. Like,
Yeah.
do the thing, work in that direction, and it'll probably work out. And don't worry about it. Just do it.
See, guys, that's good advice, not just for your younger self in general. This was good advice.
Hopefully.
Okay, well, there's no more questions from my side.
Well, hopefully I roughly
some
gave
eyes.
a good understanding of what's the story behind me. Hope you enjoyed that.
I
Hope you
did.
enjoyed that.
Open my eyes as well.
And happy to talk more in the future.
Exactly. Thank you so
Boom.
much.
Let's go.